Snow White is one of the first and one of the most famous Disney princesses. Her innocent voice is just so memorable that it's hard to mix with the other characters. The movie is so famous that even a study from 2006 showed that 24% of Americans could name 2 Supreme Court justices and 77% could name 2 dwarfs from Snow White. Can you name 2 dwarfs from Snow White without googling? Let me know in the comments.
I'm wishing for the one I love.
Even though Snow White's movie is famous, she indeed does have an original story which was not made by Disney. Disney did follow the original path more than I thought before making this video, but there was very interesting changes I will show you now. The original Snow White is made, or well, written by a man from Germany named Clemens Brentano together with 2 brothers, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, who are famous for the name Brothers Grimm. Makes sense, right? You might have heard the name before, because Brothers Grimm is famous for original stories such as Sleeping Beauty, The Frog Prince and Snow White. They did not make the stories themselves, instead they asked multiple storytellers to share their stories to pick up the best ones and make them into books. So we don't really know who, for example, made up the real story of Snow White. Now we know the background, so we can straight hop in the story itself. At the beginning of the story, a queen sits sewing at an open window during a winter snowfall when she pricks her finger with her needle, causing 3 drops of red blood to drip onto a freshly fallen white snow. Then she says to herself, "How I wish that I had a daughter that had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony." Sometime later, the queen dies, giving birth to a baby daughter who got named Snow White. However, in the 1812 version, the queen does not die, but later behaves the same way as the stepmother does in later version of the tale, including the 1854 iteration. The story does have at least 3 different versions, so it can be a bit confusing. In the final Snow White edition, which came out in 1857, the story followed pretty much the same as in Disney movie. Instead, the stepmother wanted the liver and lungs of Snow White, not the heart. The hunter brings the parts of a boar, which stepmother boiled in the salt and ate. Why? I don't even wanna know. Eventually, Snow White finds the dwarf's house after the hunter could not kill her. But they don't have names in the original story. They also don't have their own special personalities as in the original movie. Since no one is at home, she eats some of the tiny meals, drinks some of their wine, and then tests all the beds. Finally, the last bed is comfortable enough for her and she falls asleep. When the dwarfs return home, they immediately become aware that someone is in their house because everything in their home is in disorder. They head upstairs and discover the sleeping Snow White. She wakes up and explains to them about her stepmother attempt to kill her, and the dwarfs take pity on her and let her stay with them in exchange for a job as a housemaid. They warn her to be careful when alone at home and to not let no one in while they are working in the mountains. Meanwhile, the queen, who believes she got rid of Snow White a decade earlier, asks her mirror once again, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who now is the fairest one of all?" The mirror tells her that not only is Snow White still the fairest in the land, but she is also currently hiding with the dwarves. The queen is furious and decides to kill her herself. She appears at the dwarf's cottage disguised as an old peddler and offers Snow White a colorful, silky laced bodice as a present. The queen laces her up so tightly that Snow White faints. The dwarves return just in time to revive Snow White by loosening the laces. Next, the queen dresses up as a comb seller and convinces Snow White to take a beautiful comb as a present. She strokes Snow White's hair with the poisoned comb. The girl is overcome by the poison from the comb, but is again revived by the dwarves when they remove the comb from her hair. Finally, the queen disguises herself as a farmer's wife and offers Snow White a poisoned apple. This time Snow White is hesitant to accept it. The queen cuts the apple in half, eating the white harmless half and giving the red poison half to Snow White. The girl takes the bite and then falls into a coma, causing the queen to think she has finally died.
He perished in the land.
This time, the dwarves are unable to revive Snow White, and assuming that the queen has finally killed her, they place her in a glass casket as a funeral for her. So when in the movie the stepmother comes only once to kill her, in the original she needed 3 tries and almost succeeded in every of them. So Snow White knows the stepmother is looking for her because everyone is warning, and every time a random person arrives out of nowhere she still falls for it every damn time. Especially because no one else visited there during this time, since the cottage was very deep in the forest. How naive do you need to be? Okay, let's continue. The next day, a prince stumbles upon a seemingly dead Snow White lying in her glass coffin during a hunting trip, and he falls in love with her. Like what? Ew, how and why? In the Disney movie he at least already loved her before she died, and it looked like a final goodbye kiss. In the original he at least did not kiss her. After hearing the story from the 7 dwarfs, the prince is allowed to take Snow White to her proper resting place at her father's castle. All of a sudden, while Snow White is being transported, one of the prince's servants trips and loses his balance. This dislodges the piece of the poison apple from Snow White's throat and manages to revive her. In the 1812 version, the prince becomes so obsessed with the Snow White that he carries her coffin wherever he goes, until one of his servants in anger lifts Snow White from the coffin and strikes her on the back, causing the piece of apple to come out of her throat. The prince is overjoyed with this miracle, and he declares his love for the now alive and well Snow White, who, surprised to meet him face to face, humbly accepts his marriage proposal. And this is so disturbing. Imagine having a dead person everywhere because you're so obsessed. In what story is that normal? That's so crazy. Like I truly understand that Disney did not make this a scene in their movie, because that would be extremely disturbing. The queen, believing herself finally to be rid of Snow White, asks again her magic mirror who's the favorite in the land. The mirror says that there is a bride of a prince who's yet fairer than she. The queen decides to visit the wedding and investigate. Once she arrives, the queen becomes frozen with rage and fear when she finds out the princess bride is her stepdaughter, Snow White herself. The angry queen tries to make up a chaos and attempts to kill her again, but the prince recognizes her as a threat to Snow White. As punishment for the attempted murder of Snow White, the prince orders the queen to wear a pair of red-hot iron slippers to dance in them until she drops dead. With the evil queen finally defeated and dead, Snow White's wedding peacefully continues. If you're a bit confused like why is there so many different versions, you need to remember that it's a very old story and it also has changed in multiple languages. It would be more amazing if it stayed exactly the same over 200 years. I think my favorite chance was in the 1812 version, where it was not just her stepmother, it was her own mother. Like how evil, crazy and creepy you must be that you want to kill your own daughter over jealousy. And then pay someone to stab her, and not just that, then eat her organs, or at least thought so. It is crazy and disturbing, but at the same time very interesting. Subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I'm definitely gonna make more of these videos about explaining the original stories. I have already completely wrote a Rapunzel original story, so stay tuned, subscribe if you want to hear more. There's gonna be so crazy stories incoming that, damn. I hope you a good day and we will see in the next video, hopefully, so bye bye!